I work as a woman in a little store in a mall close to where I live. Because of the size of the store, there is typically only one employee on duty at a time. Nevertheless, we are a real store, not a stand in the middle of the walkway, and we offer largely accessories as well as some shoes. One day, I was working alone like any other day. It was around the middle of the day, and the mall was rather busy as usual, but even then, not many customers often came in. It had been a while since anyone had entered. At one point, a man entered the business and walked casually into the back behind the counter where I was. Now, to describe the man, I would say that he was fairly short and thin. He was wearing a gray shirt and black pants, but they didn't seem to fit him well. He had a pretty bad haircut, to be honest. It was also rather messy. As he approached me, I could smell smoke and cigarettes. The man essentially tried to pick me up, using a method that was quite creepy. But he did say that he had been watching me today and thought I was beautiful. I was friendly with the man until he suggested I leave right away and go with him. I declined his offer in the nicest manner I could. The man left after that, walking out of the store and going to the right. I assumed that was it, only to see the guy reappear about 20 minutes later. He was still there. I don't remember the rest of what he said, but it wasn't much better. He returned less than an hour later and essentially did the same thing, only this time he was further away. I believe he had been watching me, which was making me feel uneasy. But as long as he didn't enter the store again, there shouldn't be too much of an issue. I ended up getting off work several hours later. I left the store and began walking down the hallway to the parking garage where I always parked. There were only a few more customers in the rest of my shift that day. I tried to ignore what was happening outside, like if the man was walking by or watching me. Things went pretty smoothly for the most part. The mall was still really crowded at this point. While I was walking, I only made it about 100 feet before I glanced behind me and saw the same man once more. It was a dreadful sensation to know that he was still there and that he almost certainly saw me. There were still a lot of people between us, but I continued moving in the direction of the exits, checking in occasionally. Each time I did, the man was not only still following me, but he was also getting closer than before. This guy was going to catch up with me eventually, but I had no idea what he had planned to do when he did. I didn't generally try to confuse the man. He kept following me, so I had the idea that I should talk to a mall security guard about the situation. The only issue was that it was difficult to predict where in the mall each security guard would be. We had a good number of them, but many of them might not be available at once given how busy our mall was. I spent several minutes looking for someone while being followed by a man. I went down probably 3 or 4 different walkways and saw hundreds of people, but not a single security guard. I then made the decision to leave because there were so many people. I had to be able to lose the man if I tried really hard. I started walking more erratically and quickly, drawing odd looks from passers-by, but I didn't mind. I went into one of the larger stores with lots of customers and saw the man enter not long after me. I walked up and down a few aisles of the store and then hurriedly walked out. I quickly turned a corner and then failed to see the man following me. When I was certain that I had lost him, I walked a little further just to be safe. Then, after making my way through the remainder of the mall, which took some time because I was on the opposite side, I carefully made sure that he was nowhere to be found, but I didn't even see him. I had finally exited the parking garage and was heading to my car when I unexpectedly noticed the man again. He was quite far away and wasn't paying attention to me, so I quickly turned around and headed in the opposite direction, where my car was. I moved as quickly as I could before arriving at my car. I didn't waste any time and jumped in, started the car, and drove off. Luckily, I wasn't followed by the man, and I was able to get home safely. I had the following few days off, and when I started working again, I haven't seen him since. I worked as a security guard at a mall for approximately 3 years. At first, the mall did not require an overnight person, but vandalism started to become an issue. I would drive around the parking lot all night long, listening to my car radio. I would occasionally kick skateboarders out of parking lots or check for suspicious people lurking around. Other than that, the job was pretty quiet. About 3 months into the job, I had an unusual experience. As I was driving around the parking lot, I noticed the light in one of the shops was on. This was a surprise to me since no one had sneaked past me yet. I parked the car and went inside the mall to stop the potential thieves. As I walked up to the shop, I didn't hear anyone rummaging around, so I assumed it was empty. The security gate was still down, but the shop owners had access to it, so I couldn't do anything about it. The hour went by without an incident, but as I was walking around the entrance to the mall, I noticed another light on inside. It was the same scene as before, but the security gate was still closed. I even tried to pull it to see if someone had heard me coming and was trying to hide from me, but it was locked. As I was checking it out, I heard a click from behind me. Maybe it was my imagination, but I thought I saw someone running behind the counter and hiding. I was running on 3 hours of sleep in the last 48 hours, and I was blaming it on the lack of sleep. I shone my flashlight into the shop and looked around, but nothing was there. Then I heard another click, and the shop light was off. This time I knew someone was there. I told them they could either come with me or the police, but they wouldn't budge. I walked up to the gate and turned on the light in the direction of the switch, but no one was there. I noticed a clothes rack near the switch, so I thought it was the light that was catching the clothes and casting a shadow. That seemed like the most logical explanation, so I let them go. I was really scared afterwards, but after a couple of months, I forgot about it. After my first patrol, I didn't patrol much for a while. I guess my next incident happened around my 1-year anniversary as a guard. It was winter, and I was inside the mall checking out the pipes. I was supposed to be on security duty, but the owners decided to save some money by letting me inspect some stuff. I was headed to the bathroom when I heard a toilet flush that jumped a bit more than I wanted to admit. Inside the bathroom, I couldn't see anyone. The toilets in the mall were all motion activated like any other mall, so I checked all the empty stalls. I won't give you all the details, but after checking all the stalls, I sat down in one and was watching a YouTube video on my phone when I heard a tapping sound coming from a stall next to mine. I looked to my left and noticed a pair of shoes with their toes pointing towards me. I slowly raised my head above the stall, and sure enough, there was the tallest man I had ever seen standing over the stall, staring at me. If I hadn't been on the toilet, I would have been running home for some new pants. When he noticed me, he quickly ducked back down under the stall. I jumped up and kicked the door to the next stall over. It was empty, except for a pair of shoes in the same spot I'd seen them before. My heart was pounding. I ran back to my car as fast as I could. If I remember correctly, it was around 4 a.m. Again, I blame my lack of sleep. I was just glad to have the next day off.